Welcome online, welcome back. What? No. Get started here in just a minute or so. So if you are online in class, we have a completion certificate, nice and professional.
Take a screenshot right now.
And there is, I think it's Corey's. But there is one with your name on it. If you would put in the chat and let us know how you would like your certificate. So maybe there's someone in the room who can grab it for you. Maybe you want me to take it to a security desk at TRANSCOM and leave it.
I was gonna say,
Maybe you want it mailed. Tell us how you would like to get your certificate and I will be glad to get it to you. This one, maybe in this file here.
her long name?
13.
Yeah.
Is
There we go. I'm also have Matthew Hatfield.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's someone in the room that you work with,
Gonna do his?
them to have your certificate. And
Where's he sit? Oh, you don't?
Yeah, they also.
oh,
Okay.
and they're open.
Identified.
We all know and love is Josh. Member Oaks, the chief would like you to grab his.
I saw her dated, she sits an RT. Wow, yeah, she's like an RT now.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
But we're-
I'll let her check.
Of course, it's at the bottom. There.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go in. Okay, we ready to roll again? Instead of talking about teams.
Yeah. It's a good.
So over lunch, I got an email from a person who took the class, I don't know when now, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, took it yesterday, passed. And so just sent me a Teams message over lunch. So I sent him back a Teams message and said, hey, you want to talk to the class and tell him about your experience? You have a chance to ask him questions. So we'll see what, if he responds or he's able to, if he's able to talk to us. There was a chat that just popped up that said, please mail it. And it's from an unknown user. Like, okay, that's all right. We'll figure it out. That's just the part I saw. So maybe Doug will be able to come on and you'll be able to ask him about his experience with the test. All he said was, it seemed like 90% of the test was framed agile. So some people have said, I swear it's 90. It's definitely more than half. I don't know if it gets up to 90, but it'll feel very agile. Even the question isn't agile, it's about training the team. It'll be framed so it's kind of an agile team and then it feels agile. Okay, we ready to roll? Lights, cameras, actions? All right. Here, right? Okay. We've assembled a team. Let's talk about training the team a bit more. So training, coaching, mentoring, all forms of knowledge sharing. So team members learn from each other. You can conduct training by letting team members just learn from each other. You can include stakeholders in your training. Anybody ever trained with their stakeholders too? Pretty uncommon, but might have some real benefit for you. Then some project roles are dedicated to knowledge sharing, the Scrum Master. I'm optimizing the performance of the team. You're having this struggle. Oh, this team member knows that really well. This team member is working on this. If you guys can work together, I think it may help you out there, right? And then agile coaches are about helping an organization learn about the agile process and implement the agile process. So there's a whole career in being an agile coach. So why do we want to train our employees or our team members? So again, if we treat knowledge as an asset, it becomes, well, we just want to grow this asset, right? If we think about it like our profit, our bottom line, bigger is better, right? Grow our asset. So what if you spend all this time training and they don't stick around on your team? What if you spend all this time training? What if you don't train them and they stay on the team. Right? So there's cost and time and money to train, but if you don't train and they stay, what do you have? Right? So there's a benefit in conducting training to a point, right? So there's a cost benefit analysis that gets done. TRANSCOM did this cost benefit analysis, said we pay for the class that includes the test, and then hardly anybody takes the test. And so we're not getting our money's worth. So Julie, give us a different class. We'll pay for the class. And then there are a few positions that need to take the test and we'll pay for them. The other people, we got to figure it out because we paid for too many who never took the test. So if they're actually going to go take the test, they can pay for that amount of the test, right? And if you've served in the military, you may have the GI Bill, which will pay for the test. DOD Cool, so Air Force Cool, Navy Cool, Army Cool will pay mostly enlisted skill level, kind of mid-skill level and above. They'll pay for the exam. Otherwise, you're like me, you just write a check, take it out of your bank account. But that money's been returned to me multiple times, I must say, right? It was a great investment in me. So they conducted this cost benefit analysis, says we want this training, but only up to this cost. Here's our limit. We talked about the make or buy decision, and that applies to training, whether you're going to pay to have an expert join your team or whether you're going to pay to send someone away to get the skills that you need for your team. Training can help build trust, especially with your stakeholders. So when you're able to say that my team has these skills as demonstrated by the training that they've had, you gain credibility with your stakeholders. Your team feels valued when you invest in them, and training is one of the ways to do that, to help them feel valued. All right, different types of training. Instructor-led training, that's what we're doing here in the room. Virtual training, that's what everybody online is getting. Self-paced e-learning, you have a book, you get to read the book at your own pace. PMP is very difficult to do that way because it's hard to know what's the most important pieces. Right? You don't have Julie going, there's a test question, there's a test question. But when you have to fit it into your schedule somehow, self-paced training can be very beneficial. It might be the way you need to do it. Document reviews, like just reading regulations, reading documents, that's transferring knowledge. That's part of training. Interactive simulations. I don't know if TRANSCOM has simulators that they use for training. They're interactive simulations. So you have J37 that does exercises that everybody will participate in these made up situations and how are you going to react? But there's a lot of humans manipulating the situation rather than just a simulation that plays itself out based upon certain rules there, right? But we try. So that's the interactive simulations would be like Turbo Challenge, trying to create an interactive simulation. On the job training, otherwise known as thrown to the wolves. Let's get in there and start doing it. We'll teach you how to do it as you do it on the job training. Okay, Chris had mentioned earlier about left seat, right seat. So kind of a job shadowing and then reverse job shadowing, where you now do the job and we watch you. That's the left seat, right seat, job shadowing and reverse job shadowing. Any other methods that you've used for training? Anybody online experienced a different type of training? Anybody do gaming as a form of training? You play games that lead to different skills? That's the best part of training. It's when you can play a game to do that. So way back when, I went to a school at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and they had a video game there. Fort Knox was the home of the armor school, so you learned to drive tanks, and they had a video game where you get inside a tank and drive a tank around all these places. Had never before that time seen like an arcade game that was realistic, that really taught you how to drive a tank and maneuver through terrain. I thought that was kind of cool. I got to be in a helicopter simulation. I can't fly helicopters. That's what I've learned. I crashed every single time. I never get the hang of it. But those are simulations that we do, right? So to learn that skill without crashing a really important piece of equipment and, becoming a victim of gravity. Other kinds of training. Small group discussion. Right, where you have one person might be instructor-led classroom, but really throw out a topic and everybody's able to share the information they know about it. And so together you end up creating what would be the course content just through discussion. Okay, so lots of different types of training that you could do without needing a lot of resources. You do right in your own little cubicle at TRANSCOM. So in deciding how to train the team and increase their knowledge, think about training that already happens. Oftentimes we overlook that. And so people are like, why are you sending me off to training? I'm like, I kind of know this. I've been doing this, whatever. Because there's training, if you think about it as knowledge transfer, that happens just from people working beside each other, having conversations. Let's go to lunch. Tell me more about what you do. I find that very interesting. So those kind of situations, if you think about training as knowledge transfer, is happening. So capitalize on that, right? Make that something more, or allow the person who's transmitting their knowledge to the younger person just by sitting together with them. And you have those people that they just can't help but mentor junior people. Just can't help themselves. That's what they like to do. I'll take them under the wing. All right, well, give them another wingman. Give them another person to talk with, right? Just keep that person engaged with sharing all the information. They like that role. I embrace it, right? So look for the training that's already happening that we don't really see as training, but it's happening there, right? It's knowledge transfer. And then sometimes you actually have to have those formal training opportunities, right? Schedule a lunch and learn. Send someone off to training. Come to 723 Siebert and sit in a room, offside base, for 4 Fridays, and we'll transfer some knowledge about project management. Okay, so training, coaching, mentoring, 3 great ways of transferring information. You may want to look at the type of information you want to transfer, and that'll decide whether you want to do training, coaching, or mentoring. So training, you learn new skills, learn to do new tasks. Coaching, let's reinforce those new skills that you've learned. We coach to reinforce, to improve skills you already have, maybe new skills that you've acquired, but skills you already have. And then oftentimes we look at mentoring to gain those interpersonal skills, to do growth beyond the current job where you are. We'll do mentoring. So for the exam, training gets you a new skill. Coaching reinforces skills. Mentoring takes it beyond just what you need to know for your job into professional development, growing those other interpersonal skills. Hopefully it becomes a long-term relationship. Okay, how do you know whether you need to do training or not? You perform a gap analysis. Do I have a gap that I need to fill? What is that gap? Who's going to fill it? How can they fill it? That's how we decide who goes to training and what kind of training we want to do. Right, so then we're going to schedule training to close that gap when they need to know that information. So that's the best time to plan training. I have a knowledge gap. I'm going to need someone to have this knowledge during this time. So it's nice. Well, you need to have the training before that, but how much more before that? You go too far in advance and then the person doesn't get the opportunity to use it. And by the time they really need to use it, I've already forgotten a lot of it. Right. So I had a couple years of statistics training. And the other day they were like, oh, you get someone with a PhD and they can do this. And I was like, yes. If you put me in front of the computer that did all of the work and told me what the variables were, I could probably figure out the test to do with the help of Google. It's just been a long time since I've had to do that, right? I think I can read the results, but how I do it now, it's going to take me a little while to catch up. It's been a while. There's been a lot of other information put on top of that. You have to shake all that off and figure out where that information is again, right? So you want to think about the timing of training. You want to do it ahead of time before you need it, but not so far ahead of time that when you need it, it's already gotten rusty, right? We've lost a lot of it. Consider upskilling or certifications, which is what you're doing right now. Consider some of those other certifications that helps. Now, how many of you are doing this certification to help you in your current job? People online? So we get about half. Most of you are thinking further on down the road, my next career. That's a lot of people who in the military who do PMP. I'm thinking about my next career, not my current career. That's okay. Encourage valued stakeholders, your key stakeholders, to mentor your team. Talk about building relationships, wanting your stakeholders to help you be successful. When your stakeholders become mentors for your team members, they really want your team to succeed. Kind of a little tricky way to pull your stakeholders a little bit closer. Ask them to be a mentor for someone on your team. If your team member wants a mentor. Okay, don't forget in training to not only look at those skill gaps you need for the job, but those other gaps too. Look at the soft skills, team building. Just fun activities that could enable knowledge transfer. I think the test question is really about, don't forget, soft skills, interpersonal skills can be trained as well too. Okay, after you do the training, you have to say, did it work? Did I get my money's worth? Right, so we want to measure the improvement that we have. So how do we measure our improvements? Well, we do an assessment beforehand and say, this is what they know or don't know. And we do an assessment afterwards. Do they know more? And if they know more, we say, well, the training was successful then. We can observe and say they weren't able to do this task before and now they can. So we're going to assume then that training is the reason why they can now do it when they couldn't do it before. People love these badges. What is up with these electronic badges today? Like people are out there collecting badges. How many of you have a badge that you have in LinkedIn or some sort of professional badge for something you've done? Yeah, so Uncommon was thinking about adding badges. Like, let's encourage people to go get this training and we'll create little badges for them. And I'm like, only if I can get a sash. I can wear them. Okay, then I'll do it. I just don't want a little electronic badge. Give me a sash. Give me an Uncommon sash. It'll be orange, like the color orange. They like here, the orange walls, right? I want my little badges that I can display here right now.
So if they didn't tell you, you couldn't. That's right.
I should just do it. Create something. Be a leader. Step out there. Be an innovator.
Electronic badge?
Yeah, so you can get certified like in Microsoft Office, and there'll be a little electronic badge that you get that you can put in your signature block. You can put on LinkedIn. It really shows that you have this qualification. You've passed this test. You've mastered some task. There's a little badge for you.
So what you saying electronic? I mean, it's something you wear?
No, it actually is something that is not tangible. It exists
Only on
in
LinkedIn.
cyberspace, but it's assigned to you. It says you've earned it. And you can put it in your signature block. You can put it on LinkedIn. You represent yourself electronically. Thanks. Badges that show you've earned the certification.
It's like having an aerosol badge or a surface warfare badge, right?
Oh, what kind of badge? I just can hear you.
Like aerosol for surface warfare or something.
Yeah. So some of the badges you put, yeah. But the badges and certifications are super popular around the young people entering the workforce. So our young workers, youngish. So we have some young people in the back. You guys have badges? Do you like the badges? Do badges motivate you? No. Get out. You're ruining it. No.
Instant gratification.
An instant gratification. So I got a badge and becoming a PMI certified instructor. I'm like, what do I do with this? They're like, well, if you teach a PMI endorsed class, you can show it. Okay.
I'd like to see it.
Like this badge. This class is not a PMI endorsed class, so I don't have it.
Oh.
Turn into like a law enforcement type of badge. So at the beginning of class, you show us.
Oh, it's a show.
Oh,
Yeah.
credentials.
my credentials for teaching this class. So I can tell you I'm PMI certified, but I would have to use PMI slide deck in this class to be able to have that badge displayed, and I'm not using our slides.
For your reality TV show, Julie Barrymore, PMP.
The PMP reality show. So you can measure training by counting the number of badges, certifications people have. It says the training happened, whether they're using that training or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, you can just have a conversation with the people who went to training and say, how did it go? What did you learn? What are you using on the job? And then regardless of how much they learned and how much they're using, eventually they stop unless it gets reinforced, right? We're going to ask people to continue to use what they've learned in training. And somewhere you're going to record whether the training was good or bad. And one of the ways to record that this training was helpful for your team is in the lessons learned register. This person went to training. This is what they're able to learn. I recommend we do more of this training, less of this training, whatever. You can put that in your lessons learned register. Okay, coaching. During retrospectives, the team can't help but coach themselves because we talk about how can we do things better. So they talk about their performance, and in talking about how we can do things better as we move forward, which is the whole purpose of the retrospective, you can't help but be coached. Somebody's like, this is how I've learned, this is how I struggled. Somebody else offers up a solution. The whole team talks about this through the retrospective. A self-empowered team that's focused on team results can't help but coach each other during those AAR processes. During execution, you get individuals to coach. You don't need to worry about that for the exam, actually. Tacit knowledge sharing is something you need to know about the exam, for the exam, and also in real life. So what is tacit knowledge? Explicit knowledge is knowledge that is in a book. It's knowledge that you can write down and someone else can read. Tacit knowledge is that information that you know that you don't even know how you know it. It's like our cultural upbringing. It's the, like, I don't even tell you about this knowledge because, one, I may not be aware that I know it, but of course you know it too. That's just the assumption, right? Of course you know what professional dress means. Of course, you know, when we say business casual, you show up here. Now, someone may have to tell you the rules and show you pictures, but of course, you know then that you shower when you come to work. Like everybody from the first grade has been told this kind of information.
Be like instinctual knowledge.
Well, we may call it instinctual knowledge. Our cultural upbringing, why you open the door for someone or say please or thank you.
Sure.
How close you stand to people. How far away you stand from people.
All of that is learned.
How you address it is learned, but somehow
Can't pinpoint where you want.
Yeah, it's
You don't
like you
know
read a
where-
book, a manual.
I can.
we don't even think about,
My parents.
sometimes we don't even think about it, right? Like, okay, that was an awkward conversation because they just stood really close to me. Like, how do they know? Like, they were in my bubble. Where do you learn like where your bubble is? How do you know how close you should stand to someone when you talk to them? Like, when you think about talking about effective communication, do you even think to say how close you should stand to someone? Like, how do you know that? But you know it. Somehow you figure that out. You've learned that information somehow. But that's the tacit knowledge. I don't really know how I learned it. I didn't even think to tell you that part of the information because you just know.
And it may not be written down anywhere. You can't go look it up.
And it's probably not written down somewhere because we just picked it up through interacting, right? And so tacit knowledge is that knowledge that's hard to write down. It's hard to even recognize that we know it. That's what tacit knowledge is, okay? So explicit knowledge can be written down in a book, easy, put it in an SOP, easy stuff to do. But tacit knowledge, a little bit harder to recognize it. But you also want to transfer tacit knowledge as well as explicit knowledge. Okay. So real life, think about transferring that tacit knowledge, cultural norms, but for the exam, know that tacit knowledge is that knowledge that's a little harder to identify. See, I don't even know you know it, really. Don't think about it. Okay, let's move on to mentoring. Hopefully mentoring is a long-term relationship because you really get to know each other. So a mentor can really call out their mentee when something's going on because I know you, I know your situation. So we have a long-term relationship. If you're going to build interpersonal skills, that just doesn't happen from reading a book. Oh, I got the knowledge, now I can do it. It takes a lot of practice. You have to be in multiple situations to learn how to do some of the things that are these interpersonal skills. So mentoring helps with professional growth, but it really needs to be a long-term kind of relationship. So mentoring helps transfer that explicit knowledge that's in a book as well as the tacit knowledge. Those interpersonal skills. So when you talk to this person, think about phrasing things like this. You know, a person in that kind of position or this kind of person, I think, must be experiencing, you know, something going on here that maybe you want to approach them like this. And you're like, oh, I never thought about talking to someone that way. So my portfolio manager is like, Julie, be nice. And I'm like, I am nice. She's like, yes, you're nice, but you're very direct. So let's think about phrasing something like this. So I have an appointment on Monday and my portfolio manager coached me on how I want to bring up some topics. So maybe we want to phrase things like this. We can avoid saying names. We can, you know, but really get them to focus from this perspective over to this perspective. Right? I'm like, oh yeah, because that way of thinking isn't my normal way of thinking. I learned to communicate differently, right? So she's like, hey, that's my mentor, right? What if we phrase it like this? What if we approach things this way? I'm like, okay, great. So that's, you know, some of that tacit knowledge as well as explicit knowledge, helping me coach, you know, well, softening up your approach a little by, I'm like, okay, I didn't know my approach wasn't soft. Miss Julie, lack of empathy, right? And then consider desired engagement. And that's a desired engagement between the mentor and the person who's going to be mentored. They have to want to be in that relationship. It has to be a willing partnership. You don't want to force someone to have a mentor, even when they may be Julie and need one. Right? You don't want to force someone to have a mentor, or you don't want to say, hey, stakeholder, will you mentor my team member? And they agree to, and your team member's like, that person's not someone I really click with, right? It needs to be a trusting relationship has to form. And so if it's not the right relationship, you're not going to get out of this mentorship relationship you want. All right, mentoring should be inspiring and motivating. People want to grow. It's about growth. So think about that for yourself as well as your team. And here, someone has to want to be in the relationship. So make it an opportunity, not an obligation. And then we talked about those self-assessments before. For the exam, your question is going to be opportunity, not obligation. Think about yourself as well as your team. And think about your virtual team. So mentoring can happen virtually as well, too. When mentoring, both parties don't get overwhelmed with meetings. Don't make it so you have to meet for lunch 3 times a week. That can be a lot for both parties. Doesn't really work so well. It has to stay in a work context. But of course, it's going to be non-work related too, because we're talking about personal and professional growth too, right? And don't force the activities. So each one of those is a test question. Don't overwhelm them with a lot of meetings. Don't let mentoring be distracting. And don't force someone to participate. Okay, that's what's on the test about training, coaching, mentoring. So you get a team and your team is moving. We've gone through forming, storming, they're norming or they're performing, and then something happens and it throws the team off. And you get them back on track again, right? That happens. It's not uncommon. So you continually share the vision. You continually remind the team why they're together, what they're working on. Help them get back on focus. So reasons they get off focus, new team members pretty easily. Sends the team back into the forming stage again when you get new team members. Perhaps your whole project gets jolted. A slash in the budget. Now, how are we going to manage this, right? And you have this big shakeup within the team, creates a lot of emotional upheaval. That's all it takes for the team to get off focus and you bring them back in focus again. Or our stakeholders have changed their mind about what they want and now we have no idea what our scope is. It's got all confusing, right? We got to realign our team, get them back on track again. I think that's all from that slide. Things happen, it shakes up the team. It takes the project manager to say, okay, back together again. Remember, we're rowing the boat in this direction. Understand, we've dropped our oars. Something's happened. Let's pick them up and we get rowing again. Here we go. All right, motivate the team. There's different ways you can motivate the team. That's all you need to know about that slide. Well, let's talk about some motivation theories. We're going to talk about these 4 motivation theories, and you want to know all 4 of these for the exam. I suspect you'll have at least 2 questions on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most people are familiar with Maslow. So Maslow said there is this hierarchy of needs, and people have to be satisfied with a lower level before they can move up to the next level. And then that need needs to be satisfied before they can move up to the level above that. So the very bottom one is physiological. We need food, water, shelter. The basic survival stuff is this bottom layer. And only when we are secure that we have food, water, warmth, and rest is on this slide, but food, water, shelter. Then we move up to the safety need. We start looking for some security. And then we end up with a need for belonging, being part of a group, or love is on this particular chart. So we feel safe. We want to belong to a group, be part of something. Whenever that need is met, we're able to move up to the esteem need, feeling valued, important, not just part of a group, but an important part, significant part. And then after esteem, we move up self-actualization. And didn't you tell me before, Janice, that we're changing the name of this top one? Is that you said something? So you may see different names along here, but self-actualization, well, people play with different names for this, but a person will move up and down this pyramid throughout the day. Actually, they'll move up and down this pyramid, right? So we're part of a group and I'm happy just being part of the group working where I need some self-esteem to feel valued in this group, right? Until it starts hitting about 11:30 and I start getting hungry. You know what? I'm just going to keep doing the work then. This whole having to be important is less important now. I'm just going to do the work. And now it's 2:00 and you're still making me work and I'm no longer hungry. I'm hangry, right? I am so hungry now that I'm getting angry and I can't even think. I can't even contribute to the team because I'm so hungry. Stop. Go get something to eat. It's the commercial with the Snickers bar. All right. This need is met now. I can come back to belonging and feel part of the group again now. Now that I got something to eat, I feel better. I'll be a nicer person now. I can contribute. So for the exam, know what these 5 levels are. Know that this is Maslow's hierarchy. You may get a situation that says their team member is doing this kind of thing. They're exhibiting which level of Maslow's hierarchy. And you'll say, oh, they're really hungry. They need food, water. That's basic physiological. Or wanting to be part of a successful team. And then we have Herzberg's motivation hygiene theory or 2-factor theory. And Herzberg said, there are things about a job that will make you like your job better. It will increase satisfaction. And he said some of those things are personal achievement, status, recognition, opportunity for advancement. Then there are some things that don't really make you satisfied, but they remove dissatisfaction. So it lessens dissatisfaction. It doesn't give you satisfaction, but it lessens dissatisfaction. And those he called the hygiene factors. And it's hygiene factors because like washing your hands doesn't make you healthy, but it could keep you from getting sick. A good hygiene could keep you from getting sick. It won't necessarily like make you well if you just wash your hands, but it could prevent you from getting sick. So that was the idea of the hygiene factors. Motivators increase satisfaction. Hygiene factors decrease dissatisfaction. So this is a conversation we had earlier that I said, hold on to this. Promotion, growth, all motivators. Hygiene factors, the very first one, salary, wages, and other benefits. Doesn't necessarily give you job satisfaction, but it removes some dissatisfaction. It lessens dissatisfaction. Company policies, quality of the supervisor. So people quit their jobs when they have a bad supervisor. I don't see any way around it. I'm done with that. You can't decrease my dissatisfaction. But a good supervisor doesn't necessarily make you like your job. Just doesn't make your job suck more. Right? Okay, so you get a bonus, you get some money, and nobody else knows about it. Do you like your job more because of that?
Well, to be clear, it's not that nobody else knows about it. Your boss knows about it, right?
Okay,
And so potentially you are getting recognition from the person you potentially only care, one of the main people you care about. Your boss recognizes that you are an asset. So,
because you get a little recognition with it, right?
but not necessarily public. Anyway,
I wouldn't need that public recognition, but I know that most people do. Cause I can't get this Facebook, this social media thing. I don't get it, the likes and this, I don't get it.
Okay,
I know people
So I-
need it. I know people need it.
but you don't personally need public recognition. Okay. If you got the money and no verbiage with it, you just got the money, does it make you like your job better?
That's the only reason I'm going to work.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
That makes me like your job.
no, but like, we're not talking about a paycheck. We're talking about this
Extra.
paycheck was bigger.
Extra money.
than
I'll be asking
normal.
if it's an error.
So it's just, is it recognition or not, right? That was the question, was it recognition or not? I'm like, hold that till we get to here.
It's not.
So
Yeah.
Olivia said, well, you do get this little verbiage that says what it's about. So in a way, you hear the recognition that your boss talked to you about, right? So the little verbiage that comes with your bonus, does that make you like your job better? Possibly, it makes you feel more valued, right? Maslow would say it should. Herzberg would likely say, oh yeah, recognition makes you want to do more, encourages you,
Makes you want to stay in the job.
makes you want to stay in the job. That's what satisfaction's about. It makes you want to stay in your job. So Olivia, in this little blurb you get, does that make you want to stay in your job more?
Yeah, because I think like that little bit of recognition is like my bosses, right? Like even if no one else knows, like my bosses whose
My boss.
opinion I care about, like they are recognizing and valuing. I just got a paycheck. It would, or like an extra, whatever bonus. Probably be like, okay, sure, but like maybe everyone got that. Like I don't know what specifically I did to deserve that, I suppose.
Okay, so that little recognition blurb with the money is the part that says, oh yeah, I like that more. I like that my boss knows that about me. The money itself, does that make you want to stay in your job because you got extra money?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So for some of you, money increases satisfaction with my job. For some of you, it's, I don't know. I don't know if it feels the same. Like I probably won't quit my job because you're giving me extra money. But does it motivate you to do more? Herzberg says, it decreases dissatisfaction. You're more willing to put up with the crap you have to put up with.
Yeah.
But if a better opportunity comes along, you'll probably take it. Right? In fact, you may even take a pay cut to go to another job. Yeah, it depends on the job, right?
Actions as possible.
So
I don't want to be recognized.
that's why I wanted to come back with like the recognition, it's money, no one knows. Recognition part is incredibly
It
important.
runs off.
Even if it's just from the boss to the employee, that recognition is real important. And this is a theory that says there are some things we do that make people want to stick around, and there's some things we do so people don't leave. Don't necessarily like it better, but they're less likely to leave. Okay. So for the exam, Herzberg, 2 factors. Hygiene reduces dissatisfaction, motivation increases satisfaction. Then we have slide that won't come on. McGregor's theory X, theory Y.
So please
Could you
repeat what you
repeat?
just said.
Yeah, because it gets a bit confusing. Herzberg's is confusing. So a motivation factor increases satisfaction, makes you like your job more. Hygiene factors decrease dissatisfaction. So, okay, it sucks less. Still sucks, but it sucks less. All right, I can put up with this.
Maybe on the 1st and the 15th, I'll put up with it.
That's right. Doesn't make me happier, but so it decreases dissatisfaction. Sucks less. Good. Satisfaction makes me love you more. Okay. McGregor's theory X, theory Y. Theory X is kind of old industrial revolution factory theories of people are lazy and they won't work and you've got to beat them. And left to their own, they'll sit around and they won't do anything for you. You need managers who can ride people who will be right on top of them. It's theory X. And theory Y says, are you kidding me? People want to work. People want to be part of something great. They want to belong. They want to contribute. Just empower them and let them go and they'll take care of your business for you. That's theory Y, right? People will continue to work for you. Theory X is, you got to be right on them. You got to write them. Okay? So there'll be a scenario on the exam where it'll give you the scenario and you'll say whether that's a theory X scenario or a theory Y scenario. Okay, theory X people need lots of supervision. Otherwise, we're just going to sit around, you tell them what to do, and you're going to have to be looking and watching them. In theory Y is like, no, empower them, let them go. Okay. And then we have McClellan's achievement motivation theory. I don't think this is on the test anymore. I don't think you need to know this. I haven't talked with anybody who has seen this on the test in a long time now, okay? So if you're running out of time to study, I would skip this slide. But if it is on the test, all you need to know are the 3 elements of McClellan's achievement motivation theory are the need for power, the need for achievement, and the need for affiliation. So McClellan says people are motivated by one of these 3 things. They will come to work and work for you because they want power. They want to feel powerful. Or I need to be part of a winning team. I want to achieve something. I want to create something. Or I just want to belong to something. It's the affiliation.
So the need for power, what is that exactly? It have power over people or over things?
It could be different. It could be knowledge. So it could be I want to have resources. I want to lead. I want people to see me as a leader. So that could all be the need for power.
Like an ego thing.
It's it sounds like an ego thing, but it goes a little bit beyond ego, because achievement can be an ego thing too. Like, look how many badges I've earned. How many badges I got.
Power can be associated with like the military rank structure. I want to work hard so that I earn the next rank. Not necessarily I want to be in charge of more people, but by having the next rank, I technically have more power. Yeah.
Yeah, and so. Right, so in fact, rank can be associated with any of these three categories,
Right.
but so it's what their motivation is, right?
Mhm.
I want to achieve this rank because then I get more power. I'm more respected. People look at me as something more, right? I want to achieve this rank because it says that you are successful as you gain more rank and move on up, right? So people will recognize what I've achieved by my rank. Or like, I want to be an NCO. I want to belong to this group, right? Or I'm going to be a field grade officer, right? So that affiliation with this. So the new Air Force person in our family has already decided that what his final rank's going to be is just going to be more than me and his dad.
Nice.
That's it.
Hey,
Just,
cool.
we just need to get one above you. So what were you again? What were you? So he said, what were you? And I was like, I was an O, whatever. And he looked at Shannon, what were you? And he's like, I was an, oh my God, how did I get here?
Still fun.
Okay. Assessing people. So those are the motivation theories you'll need to know for the exam. Associate the name with what the theory is and then what the theory means. But I don't think McClellan's is on the exam anymore. I think you could probably take that slide out. Okay, assessing performance. So there are formal and informal ways to assess performance. And if you have, actually, it doesn't matter if it's traditional or not, you get a new member, you're going to talk to them and find out, what do they know? What don't they know? What does your team need? How do they fit what your team needs and what are their gaps? Right? We're just going to assess the individual when they join. In an iterative, agile environment, those teams are self-organized. So when they have a new person, it's the team that's going to incorporate them into the team, make them part of the team. So when you have a team that already knows they have a psychologically safe environment, which means everybody gets to contribute. There's open communication here. We're very transparent. One, that kind of frightens new people. They're like, whoa, this is a lot here. But you want to bring that person into that same sort of environment, right? And so with Agile, we know we focus on the team rather than the individual. PMI is going to say in traditional, we look at each individual team member. So the electrician, the carpenter, the plumber, each individual has different skill sets, different needs. And with Agile, we focus on the team. Okay, assess performance by comparing to the goals. I don't think this is anything different than what the military does. I think this is anything different than what TRANSCOM does. Is there anything on this slide that you want to talk about? Online, is there anything we need to talk about here? Basic stuff most people do. All right, so we assess performance and we support the team. So how do we support the team? We tell them. We tell them. So communicate, 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 communicate. Knowledge sharing. Give them what they need to do their job. We have a formal welcome for new team members. Constant feedback. This last comment about public communication versus private, you're going to see show up on the exam in a couple ways. But in real life, you want to think about what we do in public, recognition, rewards, vision for our project, vision for the team. In private, we have those negative conversations. We counsel people. Someone's not performing right, we do that in private. I think you guys all know that information, right? So that's pretty common in the military environment. Not everybody knows that information. So when you have a question on the exam and there's a team member that's not performing right, and one of your answers is, have a meeting with the entire team and let the team call that person out and tell them what it is, you know, that they're doing wrong in front of the whole team.
Intervention style.
Yeah.
You don't want to do interventions. You don't want to do interventions. So there's a form I'm going to make sure you guys get, because I understand it didn't come out in your handouts, where it's face-to-face direct communication, but respect the individual. So we're not going to embarrass them in front of the group. We're not going to shake them down in front of the group. We're going to have private conversations. Okay, you'll want to know information on this slide. Oh, that was one of the questions about calling someone out in a group. That, Shelley, is that what you encountered? Yes, okay. So we don't want to call someone out. I'm sure you'll have that question on the exam, positive, at least once.
My blood.
Okay, project manager's role that you cannot delegate. There will be a couple questions on the exam about a project manager's role. So ensure the alignment of deliverables, the project lifecycle. Creating that project management plan. Doesn't mean the project manager writes it. The project manager ensures it's written. You know, the big picture is what the project manager is responsible for, creating that value. Making sure everything's done is what the project manager is responsible for. Trying to pick out the test question here for you. It's not a particular test question that is coming to my mind when I read through these statements here. So
Be aware of these roles.
yeah, so the project manager cannot delegate, and all of this is ensure these things happen. Right? Ensure these things happen. So all this action is going to be happening. Other people are going to be doing things. Your job is to make sure this framework, all of these things have happened to produce value. This feels like the old philosophy of the exam and a slide that hasn't come out of their slide deck yet. Because they're not so much about the mechanics of a project now. This is making sure all the mechanics get done. Now it's about a bigger picture, creating that value. Okay. I don't like that slide here. Slide number was out right there. Okay, support the team. So we use retrospectives purposefully. Retrospectives is about how do we get better. Right? So we want to stay on that theme of how do we get better. Communicate in both group settings when it's appropriate, face-to-face when it's appropriate. Keep communication positive. You can give negative information in a positive way. People are more receptive to positive information. Some people can give negative information in a positive way. That's the part I have to. Some people do that really well. I admire those people. Use technology and tools. That's a big one today. Right? To use technology and tools. Constantly asking for feedback. Okay, this is the one where you're going to get more test questions from. Increase knowledge, increase knowledge, increase knowledge. So we talked about training. We have networking. Ask your people to belong to professional associations. Get people out of their little bubble and talking to other directorates. So my last job, the person who took over said, what do you wish you would have done better? And I said, I should have spent more time on the GOG floor. Should have made sure that we were connected more. That's what I would do differently if I was going back then. I don't know if that's what he's doing or not, but making sure that I can really understand how what we do transfers there. So I want to understand more what they do. That's what I should have done more. She went out, met more people. Okay, special interest groups are also not a bad place to be networking with. So maybe you want to become a member of PMI and meet other project managers. Maybe you want to become a member of, I don't even Well, I do know there is not a local association around here for supply chain management. There's an association of supply chain managers, and there's not a local association here. Maybe somebody wants to start one and you network with other people who are working with supply chain management. If you started a chapter here, I bet you get a ton of contractors who want more business with the government. Who want more business with TRANSCOM, right? But they have some amazing certifications too within ACSM, right? So those are other special interest groups that you may want to belong to, professional associations. Use meetings, seminars, virtual events. Use that time to grow the team. Use that time for networking. Use that time to support the team, right? To bring up what we're doing. And then we talked about training, and then job shadowing is really kind of training. But if you want your team to continue to grow and you want to support your team, why not let them job shadow someone in a different directorate that relates to the project? Why not let them job shadow someone else who they can then understand the bigger picture, how things are going to relate? Why we do what we do is because this piece over here needs our output. Well, let's help understand that, right? So we can job shadow different areas that help grow and support your team's success. Okay. Let's switch topics. There's going to be multiple questions on the exam about managing conflict. Some conflict is okay, pushes the team, brings out new ideas, makes the team think a little bit different. That's all good. But then we have some destructive conflict too, and that's what we don't. We don't want destructive behavior. We don't want the team to start not working together and have some animosity towards each other. We don't want conflict to affect their performance or productivity. We want conflict that helps people go, oh, there is a different way of thinking about this. Ah, okay, now maybe I understand what you're saying, or I think you've pushed me to a different perspective here. I think maybe you've changed my mind a little bit, right? So who's going to manage conflict? Well, in a traditional approach, the team members work for the project manager. And so the project manager, it says all team members, but also the project manager is the one who's got responsibility for making sure that that conflict doesn't cause problems. It's the project manager. If it spills out beyond the project manager, other people are going to deal with it. It ultimately is a project manager to help manage conflict. If it's an agile team, an iterative approach, they're going to manage their own conflict. Right? They worked with people, but they don't work for people. They got to figure that out themselves. So if it's an agile team and they come with you a conflict, you're going to say, how's the team want to solve it? You're going to kick it right back to the team. I promise you, you're going to answer those questions, give it back to the team so many times that you're going to start thinking, this can't be right. There can't be this many questions where you want me to say, give it back to the team. But there will be a lot of questions. You're like, empower the team to solve it. It is their responsibility as an empowered team, a self-organizing team, to solve their conflict and figure out how to become productive. They may need help. They may need help from time to time. You don't solve it for them. Help them work through it to figure out the solution. Okay, what causes conflict in a team? Lots of different things cause conflict. Competition, differences in values, differences in how we're going to work, whose responsibility is it? Communication breakdown. Say that again.
Lack of emotional intelligence.
Lack of emotional intelligence. Because there's a lot of conflict. Lack of emotional intelligence. Communication breakdowns. I thought you said something different than what you said. Not getting all the communication. And our team members don't know each other very well. There's a lot of confusion. It's a very complex environment. It's a hard to navigate environment. That VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, causes conflict. Things aren't streamlined, easy to figure out. It's not real simple. Those situations are easy to work together. The really complex, constantly changing, chaotic environments causes conflict. if they're going to change this word, psychologically safe work environments, when people feel free to be themselves and to have open and honest communication, then and conflict resolves itself much easier. We can prevent escalation to conflict. They can stay as disagreements. We expect people to disagree. We expect there to be different opinions. We've purposefully put together a diverse team so there are a variety of opinions. So if everybody is able to be who they are and we're accepting and the team trusts each other, then we have disagreements, but they don't necessarily escalate into fistfights.
Or cursing matches.
Cursing matches. I became a battalion commander early because the battalion commander and the senior enlisted guy got in a fist fight.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
They both got gone. You're out of here. You're not going to be in a leadership position acting like that. Get me someone to take command of this unit, which was obviously a very well-functioning unit when I stepped in there. Oh my gosh, right? Two senior people getting into a fist fight.
Go Army.
Yep. Yes. Go Army. That's how we deal with things. That's how we deal with things. And then I became the commander and we changed from the baseball cap to the beret, solved all the problems. It didn't, right? But we thought it would. It did. Increase morale like you wouldn't believe.
Thanks.
No, it didn't. That's okay. That's okay. All right. So if you have a team where you have invested, having them get to know each other, trusting each other, open communication, being able to share their opinions freely, then you have taken huge steps in preventing conflict. There are disagreements, but the team will work through that, right? Without it escalating to people getting in fistfights. Right, so you're going to get a question on the test about how to handle conflict. What do you do? Here's a conflict. What do? You're going to say, well, what's the team charter say? What's the charter say to do? Kick that back to your team in real life, not just the test in real life. Okay. Focus on the issue, not the person. It's not personal. If it's personal, we have a different issue, right? The conflict at work, focus on what the issue is, not the person. And if it's a traditional approach, the project manager owns the responsibility to guide the team through solving this. If it's an agile approach, the team's going to solve it. Okay. Oh, I have a video that popped up on this slide. Let's see if it works. And online, let me know if you can't hear this video. Nobody can hear the video.
Online, only one.
How long is it?
Probably have to turn the speaker on my computer. I'm gonna Shannon for advice. All right, I'm gonna try this button first. Didn't work. All right, we're gonna try the next button. Stop. Okay. Spotlight on you. Right, the sound is playing, so it needs my computer to do something, but not that. share the sound. So. Normally I have to say share the sound when I share a video, so we've done that. And my speaker's gonna make it echo way too much. All right, I think we have to skip the video. There's a test question on this video. That's why I wanted to show it to you. This is a PMI video about working with difficult people. You may not like everybody you have to work with. There's the bottom line, right? Not everybody, I know it's hard to believe, isn't it? But there may be somebody that nobody likes working with. Now you've got to work with them. Of all the luck, you got put on a team where this person is, where you've spent your entire career avoiding them up to this point, right? So here's what PMI wants you to know. What are you doing to contribute to the problem? Maybe your communication style with this person is contributing to the problem. So take a step back and use some emotional intelligence and empathy to go, they may have learned some bad behaviors along the way. They may not even know that they're acting the way they're acting. So try to give them some feedback about how their behavior is being disruptive. And be patient with them. That's kind of the test question. And let's hope you figure out how to get along and just maybe their behavior will change. That's how the video ends. Maybe you'll be able to change their behavior. So the test question associated with this video is that sometimes you end up working with people who are difficult to work with. Take a look to say, how am I contributing to the problem? Right? Is there something I can do to change this? And then offer feedback to them to tell them, because they may not even know that their behavior is disruptive. I don't know if I believe that or not, but there probably are some people who are out there and they just bulldoze their way through life, not even understanding how their behavior is affecting others. So.
Yeah.
And move on from the video here, but I think it's like time for a break. Been rolling for over an hour. So yeah, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back and pick up with this slide that I'll tell you, I also don't think is on the test. Side of PMI says yes, but I don't think it really is. Okay. Anyway, 10-minute break. We'll come back at 1:45 and get started again. Okay, let's finish this up. We are getting so close to the end here, right? Let's finish this. Nobody more excited than the camera person. Okay. All right, I don't think Lee's level of conflict is on the exam. But we're just gonna quickly run through it. Because it might be something you want to use in life here. So this is a hierarchy of conflict. And Lee says at the very lowest level, we have, it's just a problem that we got to solve. Let's all work together and solve the problem. It's just a problem. If it escalates, it could turn into a disagreement. And now there's a problem, but it becomes a little bit harder to solve. We're going to have to work through that a little bit more because we have two different perspectives on this, right? We can still solve it, it just takes a little bit of effort. If it escalates some more, it becomes a contest. And now it's a win-lose situation. Right? We're going to negotiate. It's going to take longer to solve a problem when it becomes a contest because it is win-lose. I'm going to win. Right? So it's a little personal now. Got a personal agenda going on. If it escalates even more, and now we're in the fight or flight. Fight or flight, I'm running away from it. I'm chasing after you, whatever it is, right? It's fight or flight. It is personal. We are beyond talking about the issues at this point, right? Our disagreement, our conflict have escalated to the point where we're fighting it out. It's all personal. It escalates even more to the part that in the tractable situation, there's no solving when it escalates this far. In fact, we don't even know what the issues are, but it's not easy to solve. This is when, if we were going to put this in military terms, this is where Israel believes they are at top. We're at this point, we're just hammering away. I've had enough. Done, right? Not even stopping to think where we are to de-escalate it here. We're just where I was this past week, where you can't begin to de-escalate me. I am just truly steam coming out of the top of my head here, right? So as issues arise, the more we keep them down to the lower level, the easier are they to solve, right? We get to contest, now it's a little personal. It's not just about the issues. So that's Lee's level of conflict. Again, I don't think this is on the exam. Okay. Conflict. How are we going to solve some conflict? Use our emotional intelligence. Use our emotional intelligence. So you have a situation in the exam where you're having a team meeting and two team members disagree and it's getting a little heated. In fact, it's getting really heated, making people uncomfortable. The project manager, you stop, but what do? And one of the answers is you remind your team to use their emotional intelligence skills. I would not choose that answer. It would only irritate me more. If I'm in heated and someone says, Julie, emotional intelligence, remember.
It's like saying calm down.
It's her emotional intelligence.
It's like tell my wife is calm down.
You're this guy, did you get right? Right? All right.
For the test, that's the.
However, I would not even choose that in that situation on the test. That's one of the answers, emotional intelligence. Because we want to be emotionally intelligent so that we can understand where people are, that we prevent that kind of conflict from happening. It doesn't escalate to that point if we are using our emotional intelligence skills, right? We're understanding the emotions in the room. We're understanding our own emotions. We were able to self-regulate our own emotions. So emotional intelligence will help conflict from escalating. All right, being able to influence the other parties to say, hey, watch your tone, right? Calm down. It's our behavior approach, right? So be able to influence another party so that they'll be like, you're right. Here's someone I respect. I'll calm down. I'll take a breath.
I would normally say, what are you feeling at this moment?
What are you feeling here? There's emotional intelligence coming out there.
Why are you
Okay.
so upset?
Leadership skills, right? So being able to, again, influence, move someone in a different direction. Decision-making, let's offer a solution. That's something that you could do. So hold on, conflict. I'll make the decision. This is what we're going to do to move forward and get out of the conflict. And then active listening. Hey, hold on, tell me what you mean. What do you mean by that? Let's not be so defensive. And we start calmly talking. So these are just different, interpersonal skills that you would have as a superb project manager that you all are, that you can use for managing conflict. Okay, here's the question. Two people going at it, getting heated in your meeting. You say, what do you do? There's the question. What do you do? A, remind them to use their emotional intelligence skills. Come on now, boys and girls. Two, say, okay, obviously we're getting nowhere. Canceling the meeting. We'll pick this up again next week. Just stop the meeting. Three, go, okay, 10-minute cool off period. Stop. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in 10 minutes. D, say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you 3 minutes. You state your opinion and why you feel that way, and we're all going to listen. And we're going to give you 3 minutes. You're going to state what you have to say, and we're all just going to listen. And then as a team, we'll discuss it afterwards and come to a decision. What answer are you choosing?
You explained it more, D, so it must be D.
It's a very long answer, and the rest of them are very short. That's really a question, right? That was the longest answer. Okay. Yeah, so that really was a question. You could say, use your emotional intelligence skills. Again, that would just irritate me more if someone said that to me, right? But yeah, so we're going to respect the individuals. We're going to give everybody a voice. You're going to talk and we're going to listen. Then you're going to talk and we're going to listen. Then as a team, so everybody gets a voice in that, okay? That was one of the questions that I had. Hopefully you get it, because now you know the answer.
D.
Or you know the answer I chose.
Wrote down D.
D. There you go. D. D. Okay, some conflict strategies. You'll want to know these strategies for the exam as well, too. So smooth or accommodate. So this is where we say, look, we can agree on these common things. And we're all about just keeping the peace and the harmony. Smooth it over. We got some common areas we can agree on. Gotta keep. So we're going to value the relationship. We're smoothing things over here. We can withdraw. Never mind. Whatever you decide, it's fine. Just withdraw from the conflict. We can avoid it. We avoid it by go, okay, stop, cancel the meeting. We'll reconvene next week. That's avoiding it. I didn't really solve the issue. Just postponed it. Never a good option, but it's an option. Go on the exam. If it's an option where you don't really solve it, you know that's never an answer you're going to pick. What do? Pick something that actually has a solution. Don't pick something you just kick the can down the road, okay? All right, compromise. Okay, we'll give in a little bit. You do this, you give this part up, and I'll give in this part, and I get this part. So we're going to reach some sort of consensus, some sort of an agreement to compromise. We could actually, this is the win-lose situation. We could actually say, make the decision. Here's what we're going to do. Move on. My idea. I win, you lose. Move on. Force and direct a solution. Happens in the military all the time, doesn't it? Sometimes that's just the way it goes. We can collaborate to come together and try to solve the issue. Let's really just focus on the issue, take our time, and problem solve here, and be able to come up with a solution. Okay. So you'll want to know smooth, accommodate, withdraw, avoid, ignoring you, withdraw, and walking away, compromise, force or direct, and collaborate, problem solve, okay? So they'll give you a scenario and ask what strategy this is. There's also a question that says, which of these is a conflict management strategy? And you'll have to pick out from a list of those items. All right, questions about conflict management? Anybody experience any conflict in a meeting at TRANSCOM that you worked through and solved?
Oh,
Sunshine.
I was going to share, and then you added that last part.
Oh, so a solution, right? Anybody come to a solution with conflict management? Anybody has a story to share? Hopefully nobody else experienced any fistfights at TRANSCOM anyway, right? Okay. Our last part, talking about ethics. Talking about ethics. We're going to start off learning a little bit about Socrates and Plato. No, we're not. Look, because you have taken this course, you now are obligated to abide by PMI's code of I don't want to say code of conduct, code of ethics. Right, so every professional association has an ethics philosophy, we'll call it, of the right behavior. And ethics is really about making the right decision. So PMI has says our ethics, I almost said our ethics policy, but our ethics code keys in on 4 items: responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. So for the exam, you'll want to know those 4 items: responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. And because you've taken this course and because you have that certificate there, or you'll soon get a certificate if you're online, you now need to hold yourself accountable to these 4 items, with PMI or not. So investing, you know what ethics is, making the best possible decision. Honesty, responsibility, respect, and fairness, you're going to know those 4 things because ethical choices diminish risk. They reduce risk. They increase trust. People want to do business with ethical people, with ethical companies. So it improves your reputation. And leadership is absolutely dependent upon ethical choices. It's really hard to navigate situations that have unethical leaders. Can't predict any decision that will get made. It's really hard to navigate a situation where someone is skimming money, where someone is making decisions that benefit them over the organization. Go back to honesty, responsibility, respect, and fairness. What does that mean? In the handout, did I send you the code of ethics? No. But then this is what we're going to try to do right here. See if it will come. So you can read through the code of ethics. It's not too long and it's a very easy read, but their code of ethics, professional conduct. So
I think it's just that top part. Is that right? Oh, no.
there's more.
I want you to download the card or product.
Have it, but we won't. Okay. Honesty means to tell the truth. Fairness means what? Honesty means you're going to tell the truth. Fairness means what kind of behavior do you have? Transparent.
All team members have to say.
Equitable.
I want to put that transparent again, right? So you're fair.
Like a trap. I didn't want to answer.
You're fair to your teammates, which means you give everybody a say. It's fair. And then what was the other? Equitable. It's equitable. What else does it mean to be fair? Anybody online? What does it mean to be fair? Are you asking fair to who? How about contracts with vendors? What does it mean to be fair with our vendors? We're going to abide by the contract. We're going to do what we say we're going to do in the contract. That's being honest and being fair. How much money do we pay a vendor? Actually, cheapest we can go, a fair wage. Fair and reasonable. How do we put a dollar sign to fair and reasonable? I don't know. but you're going to do that. You're going to be fair in all your business transactions, equitable. Okay. What does it mean to be responsible? That PMI's right up here. To be responsible means we'll be accountable, we'll hold others accountable, we'll do what we say we're going to do. Being responsible. And then respect. Respect to our team members, respect to our stakeholders, responsible and respectful to the environment that we work in. So our community and the actual environment, the actual protected swamplands and right, where we do events. So in our environment, with our teammates, with our stakeholders, with the bigger picture, okay? So those 4 items, honesty, responsibility, respect, and fairness, with our team members, with our stakeholders, with the environment. Okay? So I almost feel like you should raise your right hand, take a little oath. You're now part of PMI's ethics. Okay, where might a project manager face an ethical dilemma?
Delivering the product at the end,
Oh, explain that more, delivering the product.
gonna be late. So you deliver a crappy product or you can deliver it now.
So you know what, I know the product's not quite meeting acceptance criteria, but I'm not gonna say anything about this piece. We gotta deliver it, so we're delivering. Not completely honest, right? Here you go, I finished all the work. Hopefully they don't know that this piece is a little faulty, but it might work. So I think my car's got a transmission problem. I took it to the shop today as a phone call I got. They go, we changed all the fluids. It looks like it's running good. I'm like, great, I'm taking it to the dealership. Here's my car. I don't know if I'll tell them I think the transmission's going bad or not. If I was an honest person, I would say something, I guess.
Maybe.
Anybody want to buy a Nissan Altima?
Not after that.
Okay. He says it runs good. That's the truth. That's the truth. He said it ran good.
Yes,
Okay.
Remember the principle of, it comes back at you when you give.
Oh, yeah, karma.
Yeah.
All right, karma, okay. So I won't. All right, but that's not being a project manager. Where a project manager, we could find an ethical dilemma in making our deliverable, absolutely. Where else?
You mentioned vendor selection.
Money.
Yeah.
Anything to do with money?
Yeah.
Vendors, contracting?
Charging the stakeholders more.
So if you have a test question that says, you've been hired as a project manager, and I think it says something like a third-party project manager, which means you don't really work for the company. They hired you to be a project manager to come in and manage their project for them, right? And the manager that you're working with in the company said, look, add 20% to the budget because they never give you the whole amount that you need.
Mhm.
So add 20%, and that's the only way you're going to get the money you actually need then. So pad the budget and you do your estimate and send it up. What are you going to do? Now, this is a person who works for the company saying, look, you're going to get the money you need, but pad the estimate because they're going to take some away from you and then you'll have what you need. Are you going to do that? Or are you going to submit your actual budget estimate?
I think I'd like to eat. Yeah. So
Who's submitting the padded budget? Because that way then you're going to, then I'll get the money I need. Who's going, no, I'm going to choose the answer that says submit your real estimate and then record in the risk register that you may have a budget issue. That may be a risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the answer you're going to choose. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give them the real estimate. But I'm going to record that there's a risk that we may not get all the money we need. Okay, that's the textbook answer. The ethical answer is, yeah, I've been hired by this company to do a job. I'm going to be fair and honest. Here's what I think the estimate is that we need. That's what I'm going to tell you. I think this project's going to cost. So think the second one, I think that's, I told you the test questions that I have there. I did it. That's the material for the course. Minus a bunch of other kinds of stuff that didn't matter because it won't be on the test. So we can do it in 4, and we actually finished 2 hours sooner than. The cutest little baby picture going, we did it. Yay. Thumbs up, baby. Okay. Questions about anything that we talked about in this course, any of the topics? Tell you, in this slide deck, I took out all the fluff I could find. And there's nearly every slide has a test question on it, right? I mean, I tried to point them out as we went along here. You know, TRANSCOM asked me not to do a test prep class, but more of a how do you do project management class. And but so many of you are like, well, I'm going to take the exam. I found that really hard to do. So I started making it more of a, hopefully you learned something if you didn't take this to prepare for the exam. But if you took it to prepare for the exam, I hope that's helped you as well too. Because I may owe you 2 hours here, would it be helpful? Like Georgia started an online study group, right? So join that study. Would it be helpful if I gave you 2 hours sometime, whether that's 2 1-hour period or 1 2-hour period, about now that you've studied, you have questions, I'll come on to base, we can meet over lunchtime or something, and you have the opportunity to ahead of time say, here's information that I'm confused about, will you go over this with us? Something like that. So if you want to do that, I will offer that up. You guys as a group online and in class decide when you may want that, and we'll meet somewhere. You tell me where to meet, the little room in the bowling alley, or maybe somebody has a room at TRANSCOM. I can get on to base and I can get visitors access. I can
You
get
have a cat card, right?
I can get
You got-
unescorted access to TRANSCOM. So yeah, I have a cat card, so that means I have a secret clearance. I can go anywhere. I don't think that person was purposefully dishonest. I think they really just didn't know there. So anyway, if you want to do that, let me know, and we can arrange a time where you're like, here are topics I want you to talk about. I'd be glad to come do that to help you prep for the test. I got an email. I'm not going to waste our time looking up. Heather sent me an email that said, I'm taking a practice test. I'm not scoring very well. I'm scheduled to take my test on October 8th. Do you think I should postpone it? And just the day before, I got an email from someone saying, I wanted to let you know I passed my PMP exam. I didn't feel like I was prepared. I couldn't score well on the practice exams, but I just went and took it anyway and I passed. I took that email and I gave it to Heather and I said, Heather, here's an email I got yesterday, coincidentally. You won't feel prepared to take the exam. It does, you're like, I don't even remember all of this, or I'm taking practice exams and I'm not scoring very well. I have another email from about 3 weeks ago where someone said the test was so much easier than the practice questions I got. And they used Pocket Prep, an app called Pocket Prep, to prepare for the exam. I just got access to Pocket Prep and I looked at the first 30 questions and I'm like, this is crap. Why does everybody like this? These aren't anything like the test questions. A little bit, but it's not. I would suspect that you won't score as high in Pocket Prep as you will on the real test. Those questions are much harder and different than what you find on.
But
the
you gave
test.
us a couple practice. The
But-
next slide here is some practice tests you gave us.
Yeah, so is it the very next one?
This next slide, yes. Oh, my bad.
I think it was at down. So I gave you a couple sites where they're free. And they have some practice questions that I think are very much what you find on the exam. So the sites that I gave you they're free sites. There are some, boy, I can't think of the name of this one app that gives you 7 days free.
Yeah.
So some people take it like right before, and those questions are pretty good. I can't think of the name of it.
Now, these people that are saying that they passed the test, are they just going off of the stuff that you taught them in the class, or are they going to the PMBOK?
No, so I would not recommend using your time to read the PIN box.
Thank you. I think it's so corner. It's.
Right?
It's very five books used to the exam. So it's only a portion of the exam.
It is great.
I think it's a great like desk reference book,
Oh, okay.
but I would not read it to study for the exam.
This is
So I gave you some sites and a limited number of questions on those sites, but there's a lot of questions still.
Yeah.
So Chat GPT comes up with some pretty good questions. Use Chat GPT or Claude. So in the time where you're waiting for a meeting to start, if you can have your phone, you say, Chat GPT, give me 3 PMP exam questions on quality. Chat GPT, give me 5 questions on stakeholders. And then you'll say 1A, and it'll say for question 1, A is the exact answer. Here's why. Or there's a better choice than A, here's why, and it'll explain the question. Then you could say 2, C, and it'll say, yes, C is a very good answer, right? So Chat GPT has some pretty good, I've had very few questions. If you get a question that says, in what phase of the project does this happen? That's an old question. We can just skip that one and move on. You don't have any questions that talk about in what phase does this happen? Or a tool and technique. Those are old questions, but the new PMP exam is a couple years old now, and most of those sites they don't pull from those sites now. You'll get better questions. Okay, so if you want, as a group decide, say, Julie, come on Tuesday at this time. And if you guys shoot me topics, I'll come prepared to answer questions and talk about certain. Passing the exam, there's later on the agenda. Sign up through PMI.org. You don't have to become a member. Some of you have already signed up, created an account, submitted your application. Awesome. Oh, geez, not Stanford University. How did I miss that? The last time I taught this was with Stanford. I'm sorry, I missed that on the slide. So you're going to say that you completed a boot camp with Scalera Education.
right. I just assumed that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Same as Stanford.
You complete the
I think about it's the same as Stanford.
Scalera, pretty much. So with Stanford, it's Scalera Education through Stanford University. And I'm like, so tell them Stanford University. Are you kidding me? If you have a chance to say you took it with Stanford University, right? So we talked about the application here. So spend our time doing. Here's the exam format, 180 questions, 230 minutes to complete them. 3 60-minute sections. We talked about that last time. 2 10-minute optional breaks. Take your breaks, take your breaks, take your breaks. Really, it was very beneficial to take the breaks. The questions are multiple choice, multiple response, which might be, now there's only been a couple people who told me they had to select 2 of 5 choices. They're almost always 1 of 4. But there's a couple questions out there that are 2 of 5. I don't know anybody who's had more than 2 questions like that on their exam, though. There are a couple choose 2 of 5 choices. Multiple response would be fill in the blank, and you'll have choices. And again, you would just click on that and drop and drag. Slide it over, drop, or drag and drop. So drag it over, drop it into the blank. Tuckman's question. Here are the 5 stages. You're going to click 1 and move it to the top spot. Forming, and you'll click on storming and move that to the second spot, and then norming. And so that's how you'll move those around. And then I think all the hot spots have been removed from the exam. And the hot spot is, here's a graph, touch on the graph the first time that you notice a problem with quality. So you'll be like, oh, out of spec or rule of 7, where do I touch on the graph that? But I think now they've made a multiple choice question. So they have A, B, C, D on the graph, and you select A, B, C, or D. So I think they've removed all the hot spots. And then fill in the blank will also be drag and drop kind of thing. Oh, there's some matching questions that let's hope you get lots of matching questions, because it would be a word and their definition. And these 3 words were so different. I don't know how you could mess up the question. Like they were 3 very different words. So it became really easy. I'm like, oh, give me more of those, please. Right? Because I don't even know if you'd have to take a boot camp to know them. Probably to know the words, but right. So the matching, I had 2 or 3 matching, and there were like 3 words, 3 definitions. Those were great because words were very, very different. Okay. After the application's approved, you're going to schedule it with Pearson View. We talked last time you could go in person or get it proctored. If you go to Edwardsville, the guy's like, you're here for your test? Okay, great, come on in. If you go to any other site, they're gonna do it the way they're supposed to, and they really act like you're trying to get over on them, like they're gonna make sure you're not cheating. But the guy in Edwardsville is like, well, you're not gonna cheat, right? Okay. So take the test. Take practice tests. It really is a great way of understanding the kind of questions that you're going to get. But Pocket Prep has got confusing questions that are the test questions on the exam are easier than what you get in Pocket Prep. They're very similar to the sites that I've given you here on the slides. And then again, anytime you have a chance to study, study. But I would go pick a test date and then back plan your study. And most people I talk to give themselves like 3 weeks of serious studying. Like I studied about an hour a night, maybe for a week or so. Over the weekend, I studied a bit more as I could. I went off to the beaches of Florida for the weekend. Went to Mid-America Airport here, got on Allegiant, went to Jacksonville, Florida. Stayed at Mayport Naval Station where it's a little bit cheap and they have their own private beach. Spent some time on the beach, sat by the beach studying. We have a daughter that lives there. We have some friends that live there. So we went to lunch, went to dinner. I skipped another dinner to stay in and study. Of course, you have to play in the ocean if you're there during that time. It's like May, so I was ready for warm weather. I came back on a Monday, took the test. So although I spent a lot of time studying that weekend was like cram, I didn't like I had lots of breaks. Went to dinner with a friend, went here, right?
Yeah.
And then took the test. But I spent a few hours each day studying. Okay. So, and taking practice tests. Now, I had a set of questions that I was supposed to study. And when I could get a score in 80 on those tests, then I should move to this other set. They were traditional. The other set was agile. So I spent more time on agile. Thank goodness, because that's what the majority of the test was. I could not get an 80% on the other questions. And I'm like, I got to go take my test anyway. Okay. And I couldn't get the score that was recommended. And I'll show you what my score was on the test. Again, you're not going to feel ready. If you're not passing practice questions, your practice test, that's okay. The exam questions I found much easier than all the practice questions. Take your time, read the question thoroughly. The question's a scenario and then ends with, what would you do? Or ends with some sort of question. Sometimes I could read that question and I got what they wanted. I didn't have to read the scenario. But I did because I don't trust myself like that. But reading the question first allowed me to bring out the important information in the scenario. So I knew how to frame the scenario then when I knew the question was going to be asked. So when you get, the questions are 4 or 5 lines long and it gets tiring after a while. I read the question, the last line of the scenario, got the question, and then I went and read the scenario. And I think that helped me answer the question. Okay, here are some 2 videos. David McLaughlin has a lot of videos. The 150 PMBOK, 200 agile questions. Those videos are like 7 hours long. But he brings up a question and then he tells you how he answers it. I would pause the video, see if you can answer it, and then fast forward to pass all of his gibberish to the answer. And if you get it right, cool. If not, back it up and listen to how he answers it. And so you can do the videos much better. I had a person who took the test probably 2 weeks after we had the class, and he said, I could hear this guy talking to me during the exam. Like, okay, we've listened to that video a whole lot. But I could hear him talking to me about how to answer the questions while I was taking the exam. Andrew, I don't know how to say Andrew's last name. He owns Technical Institute of America, and he has really good stuff out there as well, too. It's just hard to get his stuff for free. And then there's a couple sites that I think have good questions that are very much like the exam. And 3 more sites that are very much like the exam. I think these are good sites. They're free questions. They'll help you. The exam is really going to feel more agile. If you have limited time to study, know agile, know the terminology associated with agile, and know the leadership piece. Now,
4,332 questions on that
Yeah.
previous slide. Jeez.
It breaks them down into so many at a time.
Okay.
So you don't have to go through 4,000. I think you can take 10 at a time or 25 at a
Yeah,
time.
it's just as a flashcard type of technique. Got it.
Yeah, they're like little mini tests. Here's an article that says the 10 principles of servant leadership. I think the person who wrote this article for Indeed knows something about the PMP exam. This is an article, I would read the beginning introduction paragraph about what servant leadership is, and then look at the headings that are the qualifications of the qualities of servant leadership. It aligns with PMI really well. So this article right here, I thought was a great review of servant leadership. Okay, this is how the exam is scored. So I don't know how well you can see it on these. Okay, so you have needs improvement, below target, target, that's the pass line right there, target and above target, and then it tells you where you scored. So I can see I scored way over there. I'm not telling you that to brag, a little bit, but really not, no, because I'm going to show you the specific things and then you'll be like, oh, and that's still where I scored. And so down here, the domains of people, process, business environment, it's now called power skills, ways of working, and business acumen. They changed the names since just in this last couple months, they changed the names. But I scored above 3 targets in all areas there. And here is my individual scores. Now, there is a document you can get on PMI that tells you, here's all the tasks for these domains. After I took my test, and when I started teaching, I pulled up this document and tried to align with the questions. They don't. So don't use this as a study guide, but you can use this to interpret your score later. So you can see in people, I killed that section just because I know face-to-face communication, direct communication, be respectful, servant leadership. And I had leadership experience in the military, right? And the answers aligned really well with that. If you just know basic leadership, read the question, you know they like servant leadership. You guys are going to get the same results. Then look at this next section. I know some of it, didn't know so much of it. I told you I missed that part about version control. And there it is, task number 12. I bombed that section, right? So this to me looks pretty average. It's above target. Remember, I scored above target in this section. Like that's above target. That's way above target. Well, look at that. And then the bottom section, there's really just a few questions. It's 8% of the exam. And these are things, the questions that fell in here were Monte Carlo makes an S curve. It's a computer simulation. There are 2 approaches, traditional and agile, and they have different names. And then hybrid, we'll count hybrid in there too. But just some basic, what's an OPA? What's an EAF? That environmental factors that will affect your project, right? Those kind of questions are in here. So they weren't too difficult. But in every single category, except where I completely bombed, you can drop down one whole block and still pass this exam. Okay? Like this nonsense is above target. Like way above target, come on. Right? So you can pass this exam. I feel confident you can pass this exam.
So I was like looking online to see like, okay, do you need to get, so there are some exams that are like, okay, you get it right and the questions get progressively harder. They use algorithms to like build the test that way. I tried to ask like to find out, roughly what percentage do you, because when you're studying, you're like, oh, hey, I got 50% right, 60% right, 70% right. And that's kind of how our mind has been like trained over the years, like percentage of right answers. Everyone says 50 to 55%. Everything I could find was if you get 50 to 55% of the questions correct, and that's enough to be target or above target, generally.
So these questions are not the kind of test where if you get it right, it gets progressively harder. Because the way I understand it is the computer grabs all 180 questions at once and splits them into 3 groups of 60. So it can't get progressively harder.
But progressively harder questions could be worth fewer points.
But there are some questions that are harder than others, noticeably harder.
Mhm.
And so they may be graded different than the easier ones.
Okay.
And there's a question that you choose 2 out of 5 compared to multiple choice of 1 out of 4. I'm not sure how that's graded because you still get 180 questions. Although this one, you actually had 184 answers where I only had 180 answers, right? So I don't know. I don't know how they grade those tests, but I suspect if this is above target, what would be the bottom end of on target? Like the bottom of on target.
Majority in the middle.
Maybe 60%'s about right. I don't know.
That's kind of what I kind of was like, just trolling some blogs or whatnot. It's somewhere around 55.
It won't tell anybody. I
60.
don't know.
And I think that's part of like, again, proprietary. They don't want to reveal their secrets. And some of it is they don't want to tell you how they weight it.
And it's not as easy as percentage. I think that's
Yeah.
it's because some questions are weighted more than other questions, so it's not a matter of percentage. It's
Well, that's why they go,
practice on what questions.
that's why they're built on the body of knowledge, right? Because they want you to understand those topics.
Yeah.
And
And I'm
what topic
sorry-
They have more questions.
For those online, again, I was pointing and saying this and you can't see, but that middle section of domain 2 is where I was pointing that's above. To me, it looks like, okay, maybe the upper end of target. I didn't like bomb everything, but like I didn't ace that section. But apparently I did ace it, right? So I show you this to give you confidence that you can do this. Like there's nothing special about me. I knew very little, well, I had project management experience, but I didn't have a whole framework or no formal education on project management. When I took the course, the boot camp, went and took the test, right? I know a whole lot more about it now. I know this material pretty well now, right? But at this time I did not. What I had was military leadership experience and that paid off for me. I understood what an AAR was, therefore I understood what a retrospective. And then here's where you can find the latest document to find out what all of those are to align the task, but I would not use this as a study guide. And there's this last part, but I have a handout that I want to show you that I understand you guys did not get. And I think I. So I'm going to make sure it gets emailed to you, or Shannon's going to make sure it gets emailed to you. I'll show it to you here so we can. All right, online, are you seeing this okay?
Yes.
Oh, wait, okay. So here's some test themes. There are 12 themes. If you can remember these things, it's going to help you answer nearly half the questions here. Yes, sir.
So Paz wants to know if you could highlight advice for framing the, what is your experience with project management question? Is experience required? Are they looking for buzzwords or are they trying to see who passes and what level they came in?
Is that the application? Are you talking about the application, Paz?
Yes, application.
And the question is, what's your experience? Is that the new heading now where you explain?
Quote is, what is your experience with project management?
Because you have to show your 36 months.
Yeah, so it's broken down into months and then it had to elaborate on what projects you work with.
Yeah, so that's the part where you're going to talk about the projects.
I think that's what he's getting at.
The application's changed now and I can't see it because I've already taken it. So I have to reapply when they won't let me since I have it. So I never get to see the real applications, only what you guys show me. So if that's the box where you put in your experience, that's where you're going to talk about the buzzwords associated with those 10 management plans. To talk about what your experience is with project management. So you'll say what the scope is. One or two sentences about what the scope is for the project, and then you're going to talk about what you were responsible for, what you led, what you facilitated.
Yeah, and for mine, like, so, and as, I don't know if you can hear me, but mine got through and I used buzzwords like, so, in the Navy, we don't call it a scope, but I said, okay, hey, this was my scope. We don't maybe call it a project charter, but this is what outlined sort of the project and told me about what steps and the deliverables. We don't call it stakeholder registers, but we know that we have stakeholders on different phases of the project. So I tried to put buzzwords in parentheses so that they knew I knew what I was talking about, that I wasn't just completely unexperienced with project.
I would not use military terms. I would use basic civilian terms Because as they told me, look, we don't have geniuses reviewing these things. That's what I was told. So you want to use buzzwords that show you had some responsibility, leadership responsibility, or some sole responsibility for something, like responsible for. And then anything that you can do with managing stakeholders, communicating with stakeholders, engaging stakeholders, assessing stakeholders. Identify risk, identify acceptance criteria for quality, identify requirements, doing a work breakdown schedule, calculating, estimating durations, estimating cost, managing the budget, facilitating meetings, creating agendas, all the things we talked about. You're responsible for these kind of things. And then again, any of those 10 management plans, relationships with vendors, managing contracts, ensuring all contract commitments were fulfilled. Those kind of words will get you through the application process. Is that your question, Paz? Is that we can talk about it? All right. Let's our copy off. All right, let me tell you about these test themes then. If you can remember these test themes, it's going to help you answer a lot of questions. Communication, be direct, which is talk to the person who's involved, and be timely, right? So you're not going to delay. Face-to-face when possible, use empathy and use active listening. There's a couple questions about the value of active listening. For stakeholders, never ignore or discount any stakeholder. All stakeholders are important. All stakeholders are important. All stakeholders are equally important. Okay, for the exam, all stakeholders are equally important. Empower the team to solve problems, empower the team to self-organize. Empower the team to set their own rules. Collaborate with the team to meet schedule or cost. So you've fallen behind. What are you going to do? The team members are the ones doing the work. So you're going to collaborate with the team to develop a plan to get back on schedule. You're over budget. What are you going to do? You're going to collaborate with the team of how you can make up the budget. So you don't have to solve everything. You collaborate with your team. I think of some examples. I had some sample questions pop up in my head, but we'll get to them at the end. Okay, virtual teams. All members must be able to attend meetings, no man left behind. All team members must have technology that shares information and consider the different time zones people are in when setting meetings. Collaborate to solve problems. Identify the root causes of problems. So there are multiple questions about each one of these, which is why they came up, why I started calling to the themes of the questions that I saw. Servant leadership. Servant leadership is how you get to empower teams. Change Control Board approves nearly all the changes. In a traditional project, nearly everything goes through a Change Control Board. Someone has a change, you document it, and then you analyze the document, analyze the impact. Take action. You're going to have choices about what you should do. What's the first thing you should do? What should you do? What should you have done? If you're looking at all of these and you're like, could do this or could do this, you want to pick the option that has the action you're going to take. So thinking about the future, thinking about a solution isn't really action. If you're stuck between a couple choices, choose the one that has the action part to it. Okay. So you can almost always eliminate 1, 2 answers pretty easily. But then when you're stuck between 2, choose the one that has the action. You want to document things right away. The risk register, the lessons learned register, your issues log. If something comes up, what's the first thing you're going to do? Document it. If that's not one of the choices is probably analyze its impact. But document right away. Negative numbers are no good. So understand with earned value management what those numbers mean. So very few people actually have calculation questions. Apparently some still exist, right? And so I knew one person who had to calculate estimate at completion. And then we don't know what questions your friend had for earned value management. We just know there were 2 earned value management.
Yeah, he had 2 of those and he had 2 of the PERT ones.
and 2 of the 3-point estimating per beta ones. So know that variance greater than 0 is good, below 0 not good, and the performance index above 1 is good. You're working above 100%. Below 1, not good. Behind or your budget. And it has been written. I was watching The Mandalorian when I watched this, when I wrote this one. Seriously. And so check to see if an answer already exists. So although I told you to pick the answer that has action, never pick the one that's just the knee-jerk reaction. Quickly jump up and do this. Always to see if an answer already exists. What are you going to do? I'll check the plan and see what it tells me to do because we've already thought about it. Analyze the impact, but check and see if an answer already exists. There's probably answer 4 or 5 questions where that's the answer. Check to see if an answer already exists. Okay, and then some other advice at the bottom. Watch the time, there's plenty of it. The person who told me that her practice questions were much harder than what she saw in the exam said I was concerned about time, and so I rushed through. I didn't second guess myself because I kept second guessing myself on the practice questions, and almost always I was right the first time. So I told myself I'm not allowed to second guess myself on the exam. So I didn't go back and look at them. I answered the question with what I thought was right, and I moved on. She had 80 minutes left over at the end of her exam time. So she's like, oh, I could have taken my time more. I guess I could have done it more. But I was concerned. I read a lot online. But they said not a lot of time. So she pushed herself, 80 minutes left over. So there's plenty of time to answer the question. So take your time, read the answers well. Take your 10-minute breaks. You have a highlighted function in your exam. You also now have a strike through function. So you can say, this isn't the right answer. I'm just going to strike right through it. I highlighted parts in the question. So you're in the planning process or you're behind schedule. If you're behind schedule, they're going to look for an answer about schedule. And it might be, collaborate with your team to get back on schedule, but don't pick anything about cost or quality. They want to know about schedule. So stay focused there. So I highlighted things in the question and I highlighted some answers. I'm going to strike through 2 of them and then I don't know. So I'm going to mark this question to review and I'm going to move on. So when I come back, my 2 are already strike through. I don't have to do that thinking again. Just going to think about the next 2 because now that I've had more questions, the answer may have come to.
The system allows you to highlight a question that you
Yes.
haven't answered. Perfect.
You can both highlight and strike through now. And then remember, you are answering these questions based upon PMI, PMBOK, not your personal preference. Personally, I would probably go do this. Okay, wait, what's the PMI answer? After you get PMP after your name, you run your projects the way you're going to run your projects, right? Or you're trying to get PMP after your name. And then here I have, rumor has it, half or more is agile. Doug, who just took the test yesterday, said 90%. Felt like 90% then was agile. Earned value management, what do those numbers mean, especially the variance and the performance index? So here's your variance number, here's your performance index number. What is it? Schedule and budget. And then you may have to calculate the estimate at completion or to completion. The critical path, being able to calculate the critical path, right? So that's the longest path, least amount of time it takes to do the project. All of the diagrams. So you have a handout that has all of the different diagrams. I would just look through that. And so this is the name of the diagram. Like this is a Pareto chart, and a Pareto chart is about, high to low. That's really all you need to know, but it helps me determine quality issues. Here is a fishbone chart. It's called Ishikawa chart. It's about root cause analysis. So the way I have the diagram set up is here's the name, here's the picture of it, here's what it relates to. It's about requirements, it's about scope, it's about depicting whatever. And so if you just read through that once or twice, you're going to be fine for the exam there for those diagrams. So Tuckman's model you need to know, Herzberg, Maslow, those 2 motivation theories I would study more than the others. The parts of emotional intelligence and its importance. Diversity and its importance. Know what leads and lags are. Monte Carlo analysis, quantitative risk analysis makes an S-curve. In project closure, you reduce your team and you close out all your contracts. know what a burn down chart is and a burn up chart, and you may have to read one of those. Read charts aren't too difficult. Now, the formula for the number of communication channels is supposed to have been taken off the exam. I suspect it is if your friend got 4 questions and it wasn't about that, but n times n minus 1 divided by 2. So you may want to know it, but highly unlikely you'll see it, I think. Benefit realization. The benefit owner is going to help with that. Code of conducts, 3-point estimating, well, all the estimating techniques. Analogist is quick, but the least accurate. Parametric uses a computer. 3-point estimating is triangular or divided by 3 per beta divided by 6. Bottom up estimating, the most accurate, takes a long time. Resource smoothing, leveling, crashing, fast tracking, those will all be on these. And then the 4 items from the code of ethics. All right, so I'll make sure that you get this document. If you didn't have it, just knowing those 12 themes there really will help you answer nearly half the question. Study agile more than traditional.
Awesome.
All right, questions from anybody online?
So I have a question. It's not directly about the test. Can you clarify what are the expectations after earning PMP? So I understand for PMI, and maybe I misunderstand, requires continuous certifications. If you don't, if you're still on active duty and fail to do your however many continuous certifications, do you lose your PMP certification?
So you have to recertify every 36 months,
Got
3
it.
years. You need 36 months, so it's every 3 years, but I think you need 60
Yeah.
PDUs.
Oh, okay. So as long as
Within
you've earned
3
it
years.
within 3 years.
Yes, and so when I hit a 2-year mark, I got an email that said, hey, getting pretty close there, start thinking about those PDUs, all right? Look at you back all dressed up, goodness gracious. But you can get PDUs, there's 3 different categories, and PMI will tell you exactly what you need for each one of them. I used to tell you, but they just changed it, so I took that out here. You can read a book on leadership, and that counts as PDUs.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's, you need 60 hours in 15-minute increments. So when you pass the test and I say, hey, I'm teaching a class, would you come talk to the class and share your experience? That counts as PDU.
Okay.
Say, when you want to talk to your other teammates and I say, hey, guys, I'm going to teach another class in the area here. You know, anybody who wants to take the PMP certification or CAPM exam, and you're going to go talk to your team and you're going to go, Julie is great. You want to take this class with her, right? And you keep talking and keep talking and keep talking for a half hour, then you claim a half hour worth of PDU credits because you went and talked with other people about certification.
Got it.
Doing project management, you can claim up to, I think like 8 hours or something of actually doing project management. So it's not hard to get PDUs. You'll go into the system and you say, I read a book on leadership. I'm going to claim 2 hours of PDUs. And they say, okay, keep documentation in case we ask for it. Right? Now, as much auditing as they're doing these days, I don't know, maybe they're auditing PDUs as well too. I haven't recorded any PDUs in a while, but 3 categories: working, getting back to the profession. So if you wanted to give a talk about a topic of project management, like I'm going to talk about asking the right questions to identify requirements. 15-minute talk, I will claim PDUs for that. Giving a little 15 talk about how to ask the right questions.
Okay.
Because I found a little model, so I wanted to know what other people asked about it. So I volunteered to teach it and then I lost the model. So I have to try to find
I was
it.
just making sure you're not locked into paying for PMI courses for those 60.
No, so they can all be free.
Yeah.
Say what?
So after 36 months, you have to pay a recertification fee.
You pay, yeah.
So it's every 3, I mean, the HR is like that too. So it's SPHR is like that too.
Wait. So you do the 60 PDUs and you recertify, or
That is and then you just pay money again. Once you get all your PDUs in, and then at 3 years, your PM.
All these certs.
Higher unless you pay again.
Almost all these certs are like that. If you don't do the PDUs and your cert drops, then you got to retake the test and pay the full amount.
Oh, so it's just the PDUs and like a
The
check.
PDUs and a check, that counts as your recert process.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. That
I
helps.
don't know how much the check is.
Yeah,
but
like-
we can Google it.
That's what it's.
Because doing the math and like, is it worth doing?
I don't know
one
what
activity?
certification
Yeah.
is, but
It's on their website.
but I'll tell you, if you're looking at doing this for your career after the military, a $500 test, $179 membership fee if you want to be networking, will get you a $20,000 pay increase. Easily. Not a bad investment, $500 for $20,000 pay increase. Those and being competitive with others who don't have it.
Right.
For years, yeah.
But still paying that $500 is kind of like, ow.
It's the principle of the thing.
It is the principle of the thing. I feel like it's like owning something versus like everything subscription based now. It's like,
Yes.
that's what it feels like. They're
Well,
like,
some employers will pay for it though.
yeah.
Some employers will pay for it. So depending on your employer.
Yeah, a lot of employers will pay for it, pay for membership in the association, things
Yeah.
like that. Okay, other questions about the test or the content? The application? You have to pay every 3 years to recertify, to keep PMP after your name.
150.
150 is the recertification cost? Thank you.
That's what AI says.
That's from our research department in the back. $150 to recertify.
Just if you're alive.
Well, now that sounds like a deal.
It's $50 a year.
$50 a year, set it aside. So you're looking at $4.20 a month,
Coffee a day.
less than a cup of Starbucks.
It's like some dog.
You can have after your name for the rest of your life for less than the cup of coffee at Starbucks.
That's hilarious.
Great. Okay, how about online? Anything you guys want to know? Be confident to take the test. I know many of you said, I don't know if I'm taking the test or not. I appreciate your honesty there, but I really do believe you can pass this test. Look what I just said online. That was really nice. I saw what I just said. I didn't say that. All right, was that something for me that I missed there?
Good information.
Okay. So really, you're going to feel like, oh, I don't think I'm ready. But one person who's taken my class didn't pass. He took it a second time and passed. He came so close the first time and he told me he didn't know that they were going to shake him down when he went to the test center. I'm like, how'd you not know? We talk about that. I moved my hair all around and showed you. How'd you miss that? But I guess he was sleeping with his eyes open in class. And he said he got so frazzled by all of that. He was so mad by the time he even started the test. And he said it took him a long time to just calm down. He was mad that whole test. And he came so close to passing it. I'm like, all right, let's have a conversation. Let me help you. And then I didn't hear from him again. All he did was send me a message, said, well, that was a waste of time. And I was like, oh no, I think he took his test. And then, but he took it again and he passed without any kind of issue. He actually talked to a class at Stanford University. He came online and he talked to them and he gave them great advice about being able to take the test. It was just read the questions, take your time. There's plenty of time. Take your time and read the questions. He also bought a subscription for $99 to Boson, BOSON, I think. And he said that really helped him. Those questions were very much like the test questions. So $99 more, you could buy another program that will help you study. And he said that was helpful. But he's the only person in my classes who has not passed the test on their first. So it's not because I'm such a fantastic teacher and I stand up here and talk a whole lot and tell you this. It's just, if you just follow the advice, take your time. I really believe the slides are going to set you up for success. I removed a whole bunch of fluff, organized them in a way that matches the test. And then take practice questions. And then I'll make sure you guys get the test themes. And you'll be good to go. You really will. It won't feel that way. You'll feel like, I don't think I'm ready. I've been taking practice tests and I can only get a 67%. I know. But while I was taking the test, I'm like, oh, this is so much easier than I thought. I think I'm missing something. I started to think I was wrong because I knew more than I thought I knew.
Right.
Test is okay. You don't try to be tricky. Some of them are poorly worded. Some questions are poorly worded, but they're not meant to be tricky at all. Okay. All right, so again, if you want to set up a study session and you have some specific questions or specific questions after a study session, I'll be glad to come on base and talk to you in person, or you can send me a list of questions that I'll answer and send back out, whatever you want to do. Glad to help you guys because I want you to be successful. I want to keep saying I have even more people who have taken the class and have passed the. So I have nothing else. I will stick around if you have questions. I'll stick around if anybody else online has questions, but otherwise, I'll give you guys back 70 minutes of your time.
Thank you so much.
Everybody get a certificate or a certificate, something you know, you'll see it and pass along your certificate. You are very welcome.
Man.
Good night, Alex.
I was like, oh no, that's where they're.
MSG.
I just put it on
It was here with.
Yeah.
I saw when he was going.
Certificate I have left on mail, I guess.
No, just.
For you, ma'am.
Oh.
I have previously done.
So I got to put my left. French, you get all the awards.
So you got Monday.
Did I say that? Yeah. So I'm like, I don't have anything.
Take care.
Have you ever seen anything on the civilian side?
It's really up.
Who won? Yeah, I don't know.
Take closer.
Was it?
You
realized that it's because wasn't.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll tell you right now. It was, yeah,
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for sharing the pictures. It was pretty awesome.
Yep.
Which I know, I mean.
Yeah.
Hey, they didn't.
I think it's.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
She has it with her.
Where can I get that recorded session of last week's class?
Oh, the YouTube channel, so if you go to YouTube, Julie Bellamaker.
Oh, I got it right here. I'll spit out the box.
Or to. But even if you do Julie Bellamaker, you'll see the Scalera Education logo pop up and you'll know that's the right one. And they're all on that channel. Yeah, and so it says day 2, part 1, day 2, part 2, day 3, part 1. It's just the Teams channel one is what's up right now. So from the beginning, fast forward, so there's just people milling around in the room.
Okay.
See you later.
Yeah, center breaks, slider forward,
Okay.
unedited versions. But you'll get the
So
info.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, they're awful to watch, right? I'm like, I sound like my sister.